In this first episode, it is narrated that in ancient times, gods created humans and witches. The gods shared their powers with the witches and delivered the following message: "You must replace me in guiding powerless humans." The witches obeyed the gods' command, swearing to befriend and dedicate themselves to peacefully coexisting with humans. However, in this era, humans rejected the existence of witches and even executed them. Such incidents occurred frequently everywhere, especially in the Rhedia Empire. Meanwhile, we are introduced to a woman and a child heading towards the empire's border in a desert region. The child is named Adonis, a student of a witch accompanying him, Chloe Morgan, the Ice Witch. Chloe is busy reading a map to find the right path while Adonis has been complaining about the heat, asking Chloe to cool him down with magic. While Chloe remains focused on the map, suddenly Adonis' smartphone reveals their current location via GPS. Chloe scolds him for using such a strange device, fearing they might be tracked. However, Adonis informs her that he made the smartphone himself, so it cannot be traced. Adonis mocks Chloe for using outdated map-reading methods. After scolding Adonis out of frustration, Chloe instructs him to hurry up and walk. At that moment, Adonis still can't accept why they have to flee like this. Chloe explains once again that the human perception of witches has changed. In fact, Chloe refers to herself as a ninja because she always hides from humans. They continue their journey. Chloe plans to find a country that is more accepting of witches. If possible, she wants Adonis to attend school as well. Adonis feels it's unnecessary because he wants to remain Chloe's student. During their journey, Chloe always appears cheerful as if there were no problems. In contrast, Adonis despises this country. Suddenly, they sense something approaching. It seems there are some Imperial troops who have detected their presence. Adonis wants to confront them, but Chloe immediately stops him. She says Adonis' magic is not yet mature. Before starting to attack, Chloe first takes out her silver staff. In an instant, the approaching troops are defeated. Meanwhile, in the Imperial Palace, Goth, the 23rd Emperor, receives a report that his troops failed to capture Chloe. His subordinates explain that a witch as powerful as Chloe cannot be defeated by a small squad guarding the border. The Emperor's guards reprimand the individuals for making excuses in front of the Emperor. Back in the desert area, Adonis was frustrated because he wasn't allowed to fight. After all, he could also use magic. In this situation, he felt that learning magic was pointless. Chloe explained once again that Adonis' magic still didn't meet the standards. Adonis immediately rebutted her by demonstrating his magic directly. As Chloe's student, he felt confident in his abilities. Adonis already knew that Chloe didn't let him fight because she was also human. Chloe didn't want to let Adonis kill his own kind. However, Adonis was tired of not being able to protect Chloe. Unbeknownst to them, the soldiers Chloe had frozen earlier had brought equipment to track their location. Suddenly, Chloe and Adonis floated due to a mysterious field. Chloe didn't expect humans to resolve it so quickly. This field was a long-distance physical teleportation technique that even witches couldn't achieve. It appeared that humans were using satellites in outer space as servers. Both of them would be teleported to the central plaza of the capital. Meanwhile, in the plaza, the Emperor wanted to address something. Indeed, they had been protected by magic for a long time. To avoid natural disasters and diseases, humans sought the help of witches. Humans had become grateful and revered witches. However, over time, they began to fear witches. Humans couldn't accept being subservient to the power of witches. They also wanted to live with dignity in this world. The Emperor stated that all of these could be achieved with the technology developed by the Empire. Various flying aircraft in the sky, city buildings made of unyielding steel against storms, automated trains for intercity travel, and the majority of the population owning smartphones. All of these were the result of the super-industrial revolution developed by this country. The Emperor was confident that humans could change the world with their own power without relying on supernatural things like magic. The Emperor declared that it was time to eradicate the witches. Humans would show that they were the rulers of this earth. After that, the teleportation field from earlier appeared before the Emperor and the citizens. Chloe and Adonis, who were unaware of the situation, were confused. They both realized that the person in front of them was Emperor Goth. Adonis immediately tried to divert attention so that Chloe could escape. However, he was immediately restrained by the Emperor's guards. Chloe became furious when she saw Adonis being treated this way. She threatened to freeze all the people here if the Emperor didn't release Adonis. Emperor Goth just smiled and didn't respond. Chloe had prepared her powerful magic, Absolute Zero. In reality, Chloe didn't want to fight against humans. If they were annihilated, Adonis would lose his way back. Just as Chloe was about to unleash her magic, for some reason, her magic disappeared. It turned out that the Emperor had prepared a photon magic inhibitor device located underground. Adonis, who was being restrained, was also puzzled because his magic couldn't activate. Emperor Goth forcibly tore Chloe's clothes while she was helpless. He then slapped her as if Chloe were just an ordinary woman. The citizens also laughed at Chloe, who was in this state. Adonis, of course, became very angry even though he couldn't do anything right now. Emperor Goth couldn't stand Adonis' noise. He ordered his guards to kill Adonis. Chloe immediately prostrated herself before Emperor Goth. She was willing to offer herself in exchange for Adonis' safety. Chloe also lied, claiming that Adonis was just a human she had abducted and raised as a slave. She begged the Emperor to forgive her fellow human. Emperor Goth approached and pointed a pistol at Chloe's head. Chloe was prepared for her fate. Before that, she wanted to thank Adonis for everything. However, it was Adonis who felt he should be thankful. When he was a child, Adonis, an orphan, was found and cared for by Chloe. Before he could finish his sentence, Emperor Goth shot Chloe in the head. This shot was followed by more shots by the Emperor's guards. Finally, Chloe's head was severed and shown to the watching crowd. In the past, the gods had said that one day humans would fear witches. However, the gods still advised witches to befriend humans and bring peace to them. If they became hostile, chaos and darkness would befall the world. Now, 10 years had passed since that event. The Rhedia Empire held a female prisoner from another country they had attacked. Two people were seen arguing over a piece of bread. Then, a pink-haired girl offered her bread to them. The girl's name was Doroka. Her friend, Anna, naturally worried about Doroka. After that, Anna contemplated their current fate. No matter how advanced technology was due to the super-industrial revolution, humans still fought each other. In the end, the war never ceased. People used to say that humans would live happily if witches were eradicated, but the reality wasn't as beautiful as that. Doroka tried to comfort Anna with her toy dolls. She pretended to play as a knight and a princess. Just when Anna's mood had brightened, the guards suddenly called for prisoner number 218. The prisoners were very frightened because those who were called never returned. This was the fourth time the summons had been made. Immediately, Anna's face turned pale when she realized that she was number 218. Doroka also became aware of this. Without Anna's knowledge, Doroka had swapped their numbers. She then confessed to being prisoner number 218. The guards brought Doroka to the head warden named Palpol. Palpol ordered the guards to remove Doroka's clothes. Palpol informed her that Doroka would be used to serve important people of the Rhedia Empire. Doroka was shocked to learn this fact. Palpol felt arrogant because he was from the Rhedia Empire. Rhedia was indeed a country that drove the super-industrial revolution, leading to rapid human civilization development. They were the ones who defeated the witches with technology and military power, reclaiming human dignity. Because of this, Palpol looked down on Doroka, who was just a prisoner from another country. Suddenly, Palpol tried to force a selfie with Doroka. In that moment, Doroka seized the opportunity and bit Palpol's finger. With that, Doroka managed to escape and also took Palpol's smartphone. While running, Doroka tried to free other prisoners through the smartphone she had taken. Unfortunately, the smartphone had voice-based authentication. After several attempts, Doroka tried to mimic Palpol's voice. Strangely enough, Doroka succeeded in passing the authentication in this manner. The prison became even more chaotic as all the prisoners tried to escape. Doroka ran as fast as she could until she reached a large door. She also opened the large door using Palpol's smartphone. Unfortunately, the door turned out not to be an exit. Doroka, who no longer knew where to go, was finally chased by the guards. However, the guards were currently in a panic because all the facilities in the prison were open, including the one they had entered through the large door earlier. In the middle of the room, there was a large iron cage that seemed to have high security classification. When the cage opened, a man was revealed, his entire body wrapped in bandages and bound with chains. The man immediately removed all his restraints. For some reason, he also appeared filled with great anger. Continuing with episode 4, Adonis was seen wearing a patient's gown, writhing in pain. He was surrounded by 4 nurses. However, their location didn't resemble a hospital. It was a bright place filled with flowers. At this moment, Adonis's body temperature, heart rate, and blood pressure were steadily rising. If this continued, his heart wouldn't endure. One of the nurses mentioned that humans were still unable to perform multidimensional teleportation. From her words, it could be assumed that they were witches. At that time, an elderly witch arrived. She stimulated Adonis's brain to return to normal. Nevertheless, Adonis continued to cry out in pain, mentioning Chloe's name. As it turned out, when Adonis was about to be executed by a female warrior, the warrior revealed her true identity as a witch. She used magic for duplication and faking her own death. This witch's name was Anna, and she was a witch who had infiltrated this realm along with Doroka. From the beginning, their plan was to revive Chloe. That's why Anna would help Adonis escape from there. Suddenly, Anna looked up at the sky and asked Mrs. Ophelia to take Adonis away. Then, a white spherical object carried Adonis away from there. Back in the present, Adonis, whose pain had subsided, wondered who the people in front of him were. After closer inspection, Adonis finally realized that this place was the Witch Kingdom. Following this, Adonis was wheeled in a wheelchair because he had not fully recovered. During the journey, he met two witches who seemed to be familiar with Chloe. They both claimed to have been taken care of by Chloe since they were children. After a brief conversation, Adonis continued his journey. He finally arrived to meet Mrs. Ophelia. At that moment, Adonis requested to be let off the wheelchair, feeling capable of walking on his own. However, Mrs. Ophelia advised against it. This place was a secret territory that humans couldn't enter. Bringing Adonis here was already very difficult and could have adverse effects on his body. Adonis also remembered being carried by the white spherical object. Mrs. Ophelia explained that she had invited Adonis to become Chloe's apprentice. It wasn't just Mrs. Ophelia and a few others who knew Chloe. Every witch in this kingdom knew her. She was stronger than anyone, very wise and cheerful. Despite being an ice-attributed witch, her heart was as warm as the sun. However, she was actually expelled from the Witch Kingdom. Adonis corrected by saying that Chloe wasn't expelled, but rather banished for teaching magic to a human. Chloe had never directly talked about it, but Adonis could feel it after living with her for a while. Mrs. Ophelia stated that magic was something irreplaceable for witches. Magic was proof of love and sacrifice bestowed by the god to guide humanity. That's why teaching magic to humans was considered taboo. Chloe accepted humans as her students. No one knew why she did it. At that moment, all the witches pleaded with Chloe to leave her student and return to the Witch Kingdom. But she responded with just one word, sorry. After recounting everything, Mrs. Ophelia was about to return Adonis's feather pen. Adonis, who was initially sitting in a wheelchair, forced himself to walk and retrieve it. Mrs. Ophelia mentioned that the pen was made of phoenix feathers and adorned with sea waves and red dragon eyes. It was Chloe who had made the pen for Adonis. In that moment, Adonis recalled the words of Doroka and Anna. He then asked Mrs. Ophelia if Chloe could truly be resurrected. Mrs. Ophelia stated that witches would not lie. Adonis felt relieved upon hearing this. He then looked up and found a strange sight before him. Mrs. Ophelia explained that the round object he was seeing was the Earth, his place of origin. They were now on the moon, where the Witch Kingdom was located. This place was untouchable by humans. The witches came here 10 years ago and established this sacred place for themselves. It was a new witch kingdom called Luna Milia. Adonis was led out of the kingdom area by Mrs. Ophelia. He had to wear an astronaut suit, while Mrs. Ophelia needed nothing. At that moment, Mrs. Ophelia talked about how science had revealed the true nature of humans. Perhaps God had created this spherical universe to prevent humans from seeing something beyond their capabilities because God was concerned about the future of humanity. Despite this, Adonis no longer believed in God after all he had been through. Outside the kingdom area, there were tombstones for deceased witches. Mrs. Ophelia continued her story. She said that humans were often blinded by misconceptions. They considered the night before dawn to be the darkest night. The opposite of love was indifference. In reality, the sky gradually brightened with the arrival of dawn. Then the opposite of love was hostility. Humans had also wrongly believed that witches contaminated humanity. What was even worse was that this belief was shared by the human king. Afterward, they re-entered the kingdom area. Mrs. Ophelia showed Adonis the tree of life. The tree was the one that gave birth to witches. Adonis was seeing it directly for the first time. Chloe didn't want to tell him much about the birth of witches. As already known, all witches were of the same gender. Unlike humans, they couldn't have offspring. So they received their lives from this tree and were born from fruit with divine power. The tree of life before them now was the last one brought from earth. All the other trees of life had been burned by humans. After digesting Mrs. Ophelia's words, Adonis suspected that perhaps Chloe could be resurrected through this tree of life. Mrs. Ophelia explained that the fruit attached to the tree of life at the moment was just an ordinary witch waiting to be born. However, to be born as Chloe, the fruit needed Adonis' power. Adonis still didn't fully understand. Mrs. Ophelia then explained that magic itself was the result of materializing thoughts. If Adonis could master written summoning magic, he could materialize anything with his thoughts. One example was memories. Memories were the source of life. If Adonis could transfer all his memories of Chloe to the fruit on the tree of life, there was a possibility that Chloe could be resurrected. After explaining everything, Mrs. Ophelia gave Adonis time to prepare for the ritual. Adonis lay near the tree of life. He still couldn't believe he could bring Chloe back. Suddenly, a witch approached him. It seemed she was a witch disguised as a warrior, Anna. Anna was still angry because Doroka died because of Adonis. However, Adonis seemed not to care. After all, it was the witch's plan to save him. Adonis felt it was unfair for him to be blamed. Anna then wondered why they would sacrifice their lives to save someone like Adonis. Adonis, upon hearing this, was cynical. The witches were doing it to exploit Chloe. Before Doroka died, she had informed Adonis about the witches who wanted to exploit Chloe. In addition, the witches who could survive in an atmosphere without wearing astronaut suits were busy creating a facility like this. That meant this place would be used as a cage for humans. Adonis suspected that the witches would likely abduct human slaves or children through multidimensional teleportation. After that, they would be taught written summoning magic and allowed to fight against humans themselves. The only way for the nearly extinct witches to defeat humans was by using substitute combat power. However, only Chloe could create the feather pen. That's why the witches wanted to resurrect her. Anna panicked because Adonis now knew everything. She pleaded with Adonis to help them, not wanting Doroka's sacrifice to be in vain. However, Adonis stated that his only desire was to resurrect Chloe. Then, if Chloe refused to help the witches, Adonis would also consider the witches as enemies. After that, Mrs. Ophelia, Adonis, and some other witches were preparing to start the ritual. Then, Adonis used written summoning magic to summon his memories of Chloe. Those memories were then placed into the fruit on the tree of life. While doing so, Adonis remembered when he and Chloe talked about constellations. Thanks to Chloe's teachings, Adonis had memorized many constellations. There was a constellation named Adonis, named by Chloe. However, it seemed that Chloe had somewhat forgotten that she had named a constellation after him. From that memory alone, Adonis felt that nothing could replace the time they had spent together. Thinking about it, Adonis felt like he was dreaming. Adonis also recalled another memory. Chloe, who was casually undressing while taking a bath, left her clothes on the floor. When passing by the bath area, her curtain accidentally opened a bit, allowing Adonis to see Chloe. Chloe's body was covered in bruises. Chloe, realizing this, warned Adonis not to peek. Adonis, with mixed feelings of embarrassment and pity, tried to change the subject. He also reminded Chloe not to bathe for too long, as pursuers could appear at any time. At that moment, Chloe suddenly cried. She felt grateful because Adonis was always there for her. If it weren't for Adonis, Chloe believed she wouldn't be able to survive in this world. And now, Adonis felt the same way about Chloe. Slowly, all his memories of Chloe entered the fruit on the tree of life, until eventually the fruit gave birth to a witch. However, the witch who was born did not look like Chloe. For some reason, this witch looked more like Doroka with pink hair. Continuing with episode 3, we are shown Doroka's past when her village was set on fire by the humans. Amidst the chaos, Mia, an older acquaintance of Doroka, came to comfort her. Mia herself had no idea why humans suddenly attacked the village. Their relationship had been harmonious until then. Not long before this incident, they had even gone to the city together to cure Lord Tom's illness. Doroka then thought of using magic to fight back, but Mia said it would be futile. The humans had a device that could seal magic. Mia was convinced that Lady Ophelia knew something. Therefore, she instructed Doroka to run away immediately and inform Lady Ophelia about everything. To boost her spirits, Mia picked up a night doll lying on the ground and pretended to use it. Finally, with a heavy heart, Doroka took the doll and headed towards Lady Ophelia's location. Fortunately, Mia let Doroka leave just in time before the humans arrived to capture Mia again. In the present time, Doroka appeared to be on the brink of death after being shot by a sniper. Adonis hoped that Doroka could still survive because she was the one who knew how to resurrect Chloe. In that moment, Doroka revealed something that left Adonis confused about what to do. Suddenly, more troops arrived. Reluctantly, Adonis had to evade and let Daroka get shot. Adonis then used his magic again. The troops kept firing in panic, but all their shots were stopped and none hit Adonis. Even the halted bullets were redirected and fired back at the troops. A sniper on top of a building waited for an opportunity to shoot again. When Adonis was in their sights, the sniper took a shot. However, Adonis seemed completely unharmed. The sniper's bullet was successfully stopped, reversed, and multiplied several times. The sniper could only resign to their unfortunate fate. Adonis felt that the humans were foolish to believe they could win against magic. Adonis wouldn't allow the humans to live peacefully after killing Chloe. From the central office, the head of the security bureau could only watch his troops being massacred. However, he still held hope for Yuki, who was assigned to activate the magic photon inhibitor device. Meanwhile, Yuki finally reached the underground chamber where the device was located. There, she encountered a person in charge who had anticipated that the security bureau would come here. He was the head of the science bureau, Theta Samantha. Theta strongly advised Yuki against activating the device. Naturally, Yuki sought an explanation for his statement. Afterward, Yamato received a phone call from Yuki. When he answered, he realized that the voice on the other end was Theta's. Theta wanted to discuss something with Yamato. However, the security bureau was running out of time. Adonis continued to eliminate all the troops sent their way. As Theta had told Yuki, the magic photon inhibitor device must not be activated. Indeed, science has been a beacon for humanity. Nevertheless, there are still many things in science that they cannot yet unravel. One of these mysteries is the mysterious particles emitted by the magic photon inhibitor device. Theta inquired if Yamato knew about the syndrome of cell function loss. Yamato was aware that many soldiers experienced this condition during the witch hunts 10 years ago. There were likely several factors, but the exact cause remained uncertain. However, the Science Bureau believed that the mysterious particles were the root cause. The magic photon inhibitor device would destroy the body's cells. Yamato, as the new head of the Security Bureau, was only now learning about this information. Understandably, the news about this had been kept concealed. Ironically, in this world, there were no longer any witches who could mend nature. The atmosphere capable of purifying these hazardous particles had disappeared. It could be said that humanity had lost the gift of nature. If people were exposed to these particles, their bodies would disintegrate. Who had been fighting for humanity and standing continuously in front of the magic photon inhibitor device. Yamato should be aware of Emperor Goth's current state. In other words, his illness was caused by these mysterious particles. In the midst of Yamato's conversation with Theta, Adonis continued to eliminate all incoming troops. Yamato felt confused about what to do. On the other hand, Yuki, despite being warned about the danger of the device, remained undeterred and attempted to activate it. She cared little about the illness or anything else. All she knew was that there was a magical threat right before her eyes. Furthermore, her sibling had entrusted this task to her. Observing the situation, Theta instructed everyone in the room to evacuate. Meanwhile, Theta herself tried to stop Yuki. Yuki still paid no heed to Theta's warnings and eventually activated the device. Subsequently, Adonis, who had been using magic all along, suddenly found that his magic was no longer functioning. Yamato, observing the situation from the central office, was bewildered by what was happening. Theta had already stated that the magic photon inhibitor device should not have been activated. Yamato immediately contacted Theta. On the other hand, Theta had successfully deactivated the device. However, Yuki had lost consciousness, and both of them seemed to be affected by the mentioned illness. Nevertheless, Theta assured Yamato not to worry about them and instructed him to focus on Adonis. Seeing an opportunity, the Security Bureau promptly launched an ambush. A female soldier stepped forward alone to eliminate Adonis. She held deep resentment towards Adonis for daring to destroy the country. At that very moment, the rooftop of a building beside them collapsed between them and other soldiers. Unfazed, the female soldier remained determined to finish off Adonis. In that moment, Adonis appeared to have accepted his fate. This way, he could join Chloe as well. Eventually, the soldier beheaded Adonis with a thermochemical bayonet on her rifle. Meanwhile, other soldiers were naturally concerned for the safety of the female soldier due to the collapsing building. They also couldn't see well due to the dust. Shortly thereafter, they saw a silhouette approaching them. The female soldier returned to her unit carrying the head of Adonis, the witch's disciple. They cheered for their victory. The unit at the central office also rejoiced over this triumph. Yamato, too, felt relieved when he saw this. However, he still had the duty of assisting the affected citizens of this battle. Additionally, Adonis' body would be taken for further examination. Then, Yamato instructed his subordinates to check on the conditions of Theta and Yuki. Several people entered the room with the magic photon inhibitor device to assist Theta and Yuki, who had fainted and were lying on the floor. After this victory, the ailing Emperor Goth delivered a speech in the square as usual. He informed everyone that the youth captured 10 years ago had managed to escape and was the one responsible for this dreadful tragedy. He also revealed the fact that Adonis, the witch's disciple, was, in fact, a human just like them. However, he had been deceived by magic. After 10 years of effort, they still didn't understand how Adonis could control magic as a human. Nonetheless, this disaster had occurred because Emperor Goth had allowed Adonis to live. Still, Emperor Goth believed that their nation was at the pinnacle of the world. They had harnessed the power of science and possessed an indomitable army. They would not be defeated by any evil. Emperor Goth's condolences speech had spread widely on video platforms that could be viewed through smartphones. In a school, they mourned the loss of the students there. In that school, a student asked her teacher why the witch's disciple would side with witches if he was also a human. The teacher naturally didn't know how to respond and simply said that the student might have been brainwashed. The bell for break time rang. Then a bespectacled girl approached a brown-haired girl. It was unclear what she meant, but the bespectacled girl mentioned that she had seen what the brown-haired girl had done. After school, the brown-haired girl went to the memorial site filled with bottles and photos of the victims. It turned out that the girl, Eri, had left her boyfriend, Takuma, who had been crushed by concrete during the chaos. Takuma died because of Eri. She felt guilty, but for some reason, Eri had a lot of photos of Adonis, the witch's disciple, on her phone. Her boyfriend had just died, yet she seemed infatuated with Adonis. Suddenly, a bespectacled man appeared behind Eri. Judging by his attire, it appeared he was a government official. Eri became panicked and quickly began deleting the photos on her smartphone. However, the man told her not to bother. He only warned Eri not to show them to anyone else and assured her that he would report it. Still feeling panicked, Eri left the area. Right after Eri left, the man made a phone call to someone. He reported the presence of a high school girl infatuated with a terrorist. He requested that the person he called apprehend the girl. Suddenly, a soldier approached the man. Apparently, the man was named Oz, and he was the head of the Intelligence Bureau. They were patrolling various disaster sites. The person he had called earlier was a girl named Charmy. Charmy was a technology expert who often teased Oz. In truth, Charmy had long submitted a transfer request, but Oz had never approved it. If this continued, Charmy would be forced to report Oz to the Labor Bureau. Why not? Charmy liked to assign overtime work and belittle her subordinates. It seemed that only the unit led by Oz had such a toxic environment. By the way, Charmy had something to report. She had just released the results of an analysis that was bad news. Charmy would provide the details when Oz returned to the office, but the bottom line was that the witch's disciple's body turned out to be fake. Moving on to episode 2, the man who was previously confined in a high-security capsule is now free as well. The guards refer to him as Prisoner 1001, and they are in a state of panic because this is a high classification case. 3 guards then decide to confront Prisoner 1001 to prevent the wrath of Warden Palpol. Strangely, it appears that Daroka recognizes the prisoner. Following this, Prisoner 1001 dispatches the 3 guards who attempted to kill him. Armed with a pistol taken from the guards, Prisoner 1001 approaches the defenseless Daroka and points the pistol at her. Daroka lies there believing she has been shot. However, it turns out that Prisoner 1001 aimed his shot to release the shackles binding Daroka. Shortly thereafter, the detention camp announces to all the guards that the doors of the 1st to 6th prison zones have been opened. Many prisoners have escaped as a result. Meanwhile, in the State Security Bureau building, the head of State Security is giving orders to someone. The head of the bureau asks the person to go to the Mayhem detention camp and report on the situation there. The person agrees with a relaxed attitude, as if playing around. The head of the bureau is Senior Officer Yamato, accompanied by his younger sister, Officer Yuki, who is the deputy head of the bureau. It appears that Yuki does not appreciate the attitude of the officer sent by her brother. Despite her attitude, Yamato warns Yuki not to antagonize him. The officer is named Ikout, and he is a backbone of the country, just like Yuki. At this moment, Palpal is in the storage room of confiscated items in the Mayhem detention camp. He is in a state of panic because this room has also been opened. His subordinates explain that all of this happened because the escaped girl prisoner managed to pass voice authentication on Palpal's smartphone. However, he finds this situation impossible. Even if the voice authentication succeeded, Palpal does not have the authority to open prisoner 1001 cell. That prisoner is a level SS danger, serving a permanent sentence, a student of magic, Adonis, and the magic pen that was in the storage room is now missing. Adonis, who has escaped, is now on top of a building, trying out his magic. It turns out that his written summoning magic is activated when he writes with his pen. While activating the magic, Adonis fires a bullet from his pistol. Adonis makes the shot bullet expand greatly using his magic. Consequently, the colossal bullet hits a building in front of him. After confirming that his magic works, Adonis intends to eliminate all the people here. On the other hand, Ecout has arrived at the Mayhem detention camp and reported that Adonis is not there. He then received another report of a building being hit by a colossal bullet, most likely the work of Adonis. Before Ecout departs, he intends to eliminate the root cause of the problem, Warden Palpal. At the same time, it appears that Doroka has also managed to escape from the detention camp. She is shocked when she sees the massive bullet hitting a building and blames herself for releasing a dangerous prisoner. Meanwhile, Adonis is currently muttering to himself. He is certain that Chloe would not approve of his intention to kill all humans. 10 years have passed since then, and Adonis has never forgotten everything that happened to Chloe. He then uses his magic in the middle of the street, summoning a giant stone warrior that emerges from the ground. The giant warrior proceeds to destroy everything in its path while carrying Adonis in its left palm. Not far from there, a police station receives a call about a giant appearing in the area. The police officers who take the call are naturally skeptical. Suddenly, a car crashes into the police station. The driver of the car appears extremely frightened, having seen something unsettling. The police officer who checks on the driver accuses them of driving under the influence of drugs. The officer then calls the central office to request the narcotics division to come over. As the officer steps out a bit, they realize that there is indeed a giant in the area. It seems like they need security bureau members to come here. Adonis' current main objective is to go to the palace and eliminate Emperor Goth. In the security bureau building, Yamato receives a detailed report about the appearance of the giant. Yamato asks if anyone has reported this to Emperor Goth. It appears that this information has not reached Emperor Goth due to the Authority Bureau's interference. Based on the Empress's statement, Emperor Goth's condition has not improved. After hearing this, Yamato decides to declare a state of emergency using his authority. Yamato has prepared various forces to deal with the giant. He observes the current situation from a distance and is puzzled by how the stone giant can move. Yuki, who is with him, receives a report that prisoner 1001 and the magic pen from the Mayhem detention camp have disappeared. This suggests that the giant is likely a result of the magic used by Adonis, the student of magic. Upon hearing this, Yamato feels that this situation can be more easily handled. They just need to use the photon magic inhibitor devices in the underground chamber. Unfortunately, these devices are from 10 years ago, and they are not sure if they still function. Yamato entrusts the device issue to Yuki. It appears that a tank battalion is aiming at the giant. On the first shot, all their cannons missed the target. When they fired for the second time, for some reason, their cannons also didn't hit the giant. It turns out that Adonis was using magic to deflect the cannons. Adonis then controls the giant to destroy a building, directing the debris towards the tank battalion. During the 10 years of his confinement, Adonis used that time for limitless thinking simulations. There's only one way for non-magic users to employ magic, and that's through written summoning magic. They must understand the structure of magic, systematize it, and then turn it into a formula with a special feather pen. Without the guidance of a great mentor, this method can't be comprehended. From the giant's palm, Adonis uses his magic to create 2 machine guns and shoots at all the people in front of him. At the same time, Ecout observes the giant from a distance and reports it to the head of the Security Bureau. As suspected by the Security Bureau, the mastermind behind the giant is Adonis, the student of magic. Shortly after that, fighter jets approach the giant. The missiles they launched successfully hit the giant, but the explosion also affects the people in the vicinity. Adonis is now lying down due to the impact of the missile explosion. It seems that his body has indeed become slower compared to 10 years ago. Meanwhile, we are shown Emperor Guth, who is seriously ill and sleeping in his bed. Emperor Goth hears the commotion outside, but the Empress reassures him and tells him to rest. In reality, Emperor Goth did not expect to be afflicted with an incurable disease. Whether it's a curse or not, he doesn't know. Nevertheless, Emperor Goth does not regret his actions. This nation has built an advanced scientific civilization and has eradicated all the witches to allow humanity to progress. According to Emperor Goth, if there were still witches in the world, humanity would never advance. Humanity must use its own strength to pave the way. That's why Emperor Goth believes he has done the right thing. On the other hand, all the troops that stormed Adonis have lost contact with the command center. It appears that they have been completely slaughtered. Shortly after that, the Security Bureau received a report that a civilian was approaching Adonis. Adonis is currently strangling the last surviving soldier before killing him. Before he does it, suddenly, Daroka's voice is heard asking Adonis to stop. Daroka can't bear to see so many innocent lives being taken. She doesn't want any more innocent people to die. Upon hearing this, Adonis immediately kills the soldier he was strangling. He laughs when Daroka refers to the people he killed as innocent. Adonis starts thinking about something even more horrifying, regardless of whether they are from Rhedia or not. All humans are his enemies, including Daroka, who is a prisoner. Suddenly, Daroka mentions that Chloe would never want Adonis to do this. Adonis becomes even angrier because Daroka is talking about Chloe so casually. He now considers Daroka as bait to hinder him before the next wave of troops arrives. Adonis is well aware of the cunning tricks humans use. Just like 10 years ago, Adonis and Chloe would never lose if they fought fairly and honestly. Unexpectedly, Daroka admits that she is a witch. Nevertheless, Adonis doesn't believe that there are witches left in this world. He becomes even angrier, thinking that Daroka is pretending to be a witch. However, Daroka insists that she is one of the survivors of the witch hunts. Although it is true, Adonis remains angry because they did not come to save Chloe at that time. Daroka apologizes, explaining that at that time the witches were busy escaping. Adonis does not accept her apology. It's too late. Chloe cannot come back to life. Surprisingly, Daroka states that Chloe can be resurrected. At first, Adonis does not believe it and considers it an insult. However, Daroka explains that she came to this country to save Adonis, all for the purpose of resurrecting Chloe. To do that, Adonis is a necessary requirement. There must be memories belonging to both Adonis and Chloe. Adonis still doesn't care. He wants to kill everyone who disrespected Chloe and everyone who mentioned her name. It seems that Daroka failed to convince him. She accepts if Adonis wants to kill her. As he looks at Daroka's face, Adonis is reminded of Chloe, who smiled in her final moments. His intention wavers and Adonis starts to shed tears. In reality, he wants to believe that Chloe can be resurrected. At that moment, Daroka reaches out her hand to Adonis. Before he can grasp it, Daroka's body is suddenly split in half by a sniper shot.